You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Hello there, I'm Davey.
And I'm Mitch.
And we are
The Bargain Bin Gamers.
Hello, how are you, my doll?
Fucking fantastic. How are you?
Look, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
It's been a nice week.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a relatively okay week, but and I'm here with you.
Yeah.
And we're Bargain Bin Gamering today. Yeah.
So your cup overrunneth with joy. Overflow?
Overflow. There is joy all over the floor.
Clean up on aisle, Bargain Bin Gamer.
Yeah, clean up on aisle, Bargain Bin Gamer. Plus, we've been hanging out a bit this week. And I think one of the things I wanted to talk about, just like straight out of the gate, is the fact that I've been introducing you to things.
Thank God.
So
Given some gaming culture by my older friend.
I was just say how weird it is that like we've gone from being in like a proper professional studio to me fucking sitting here like a fucking queen on my big gaming chair.
Me and your
you on one of my dining room chairs as we huddle around one mic. It's two gays, one
Davey
mic, everyone.
keeps keeping closer to him. But
I feel like when you move it there, it's closer to you.
No, it's equidistance. Pythagorean theorem.
I don't think that's what it's Pythagoras.
Pythagorean?
And I don't know what that is. So anyway, I've been introducing my younger friend.
Sprightly
I wonder what people who don't know us think of this, right? Like, okay.
Of like how age
they're
gap
like,
we
yeah,
are,
like
or...
Davey's like old as fuck, and Mitch is a thing. Like he's.
I'm doing my for anyone who knows much about like government profession. I'm doing YIPRAC, young person in aged care.
Oh dear.
I'm in the old person home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like
you're a sprightly 30.
Yeah. I turn 41 next week.
And we're very excited for his birthday.
Yes. But anyway, I mean, the first thing I introduced you to this week is not something that's particularly new. It's something that's, it is actually new, right? So the other things I'm going to introduce you to today are older. But what did I introduce you to this week?
Mythic Quest.
There we go. Oh my God.
I thought it was something way like more about what we're doing today. And I go,
yeah, this is what happens when we don't have like a proper script.
Exactly. Off the cuff today.
It is off the cuff.
But yeah, Mythic Quest.
Mythic Quest, yeah, because it went into its fourth season. So its fourth season started. So anyone who doesn't know Mythic Quest, it is a TV show on Apple TV, not a sponsor. And
if you want to.
Hey, talking to you, Apple. But it's a workplace comedy is probably the best way to describe it. Sets in the fictional offices of the Mythic Quest game.
It definitely gives like a mix between like The Office and like Community-esque. Like it's not talk to camera style like The Office, but it's definitely like Office works. Oh my God. Office banter, office dynamics, things like that.
Yeah.
Very Community-esque where people are kind of caricatures and stuff like that. It's quite
good. It's got actors from Community. Yeah.
Oh, that also helps. So there's an actor from Community.
Yeah. So anyway, I messaged you and like, oh my God, do you watch Mythic Quest? The new season's out. And you're like, what the fuck is that, old man? So anyway, the other night, Mitchell came over. We had Palmer's, we drank lots of red wine.
Yeah, it was good.
And I think we smashed through like the first like 5 or so episodes of the first season.
We did a pretty good job, and to be honest, I'm actually pretty hooked. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
All things considered, like well-rounded characters, well-written story, very what's the term? Like very finger on the pulse humor.
Yeah.
Especially even now in today's age, there was a certain episode about a certain Reich, some could say. And it was
an episode about Nazis.
Yeah, and it was very it had good poignant commentary. Let's just say that. So and I love a comedy show that can work in any age and any period. That's why I think shows like The Office have always lasted. Yeah, they're made in the 2000s, but they're still kind of topical today.
Yeah, and I like that it's a game about gaming culture and very modern gaming culture because you've got Pootie Shoe, the streamer.
Yeah, the 14-year-old streamer.
Yeah,
they have to like.
And Mythic Quest, the game, is an MMO.
Yeah,
and
it's very World of Warcraft-esque.
Yeah, and you've got the guy who's the head of monetization.
And he's only thinking about money, doesn't give a fuck about the game.
Yeah. Well, all these things about backing creative or backing corporate,
Oh, and then there's also like the commentary around like women in gaming.
Yes. And
good.
All done kind of like, it's tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's done kind of tastefully.
It's got a deft hand. Yeah.
Because, I mean, even there's an episode very early on in the first season about misogyny in the gaming industry, where a lot of the male characters are trying to prove that they're not, but in trying to prove that they're not, show that they are.
Yeah.
And that could be a little on the nose, right?
Yes.
Like trying to tackle these topics can be very, very hard to do, right? And I feel like they do it very well whilst making it very, very funny and accessible to outside of gaming culture at the same time.
I was going to say the same thing. I think they make it not only really funny, but also very accessible. Like, yes, they are kind of like heavy topics, misogyny, racism, XYZ, but they make it so accessible and funny and silly that you can kind of take on these harder hitting topics, but still like laugh about it. And then at the end, you're not being preached to.
Yeah.
Which I think is really hard to do in our day and age, like not feeling like being preached to about something. So I think it's really well written. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a very self-aware show.
Yes, it very much is.
Very, very self-aware in the fact that it's actually it's got an incredibly diverse cast. You've got the lesbian characters as well. You've got Poppy Lee as one of the lead programmers, all that kind of
She's
thing.
my favorite character.
Yes. Charlotte Nicardо, or Nick Dow? Nick Dow. I think it's Nick Dow.
Shout out to the Aussie in that show. She's Australian.
Yes. And she also played a character in the final season of Star Trek Lower Decks as well.
What?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
There you go. Add that to my list.
I was finally excited that there was finally an Australian in Star Trek. But it's also very self-aware that it's a lot of what's going on within the Mythic Quest office is just part of the problem with modern gaming culture.
Yeah, it's
the way the way that Poppy is always playing second fiddle to the main character of Iron. So fucking hard.
He's so hard, but also it's so funny because not only is he's the guy from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I forget his name.
Yeah.
He's so douchebaggy.
Rob McElhenney?
Rob
McElhenney. I don't know.
He's very hot, is what we're saying.
And he's best friends with Ryan Reynolds, and just
that's an Eiffel Tower.
There is a Venn diagram I'd like to be in the center of.
Yes, I just love those two circles.
I don't know which the third part of that Venn diagram would be.
It's you. You're in the middle.
No, there's there's three parts of a Venn diagram, and then there's a crossover in the middle. So I mean, I'm sure they've got another friend.
I'm sure they have hot friends. But he's very like egotistical, and even from the point that his name is Ian, but everyone pronounces it Iron for reasons that I assume is just that he wants to sound cooler. And that's all you need to know about his character. Like that's literally to the T, which I think is done perfectly.
Yeah.
And the whole first episode introduces you to him really brilliantly. So
yeah. So Mitchell has discovered this for the first time, and I imagine there's probably a lot of it's actually won quite a few awards. It's very well known. Very famously had its first season interrupted by COVID. The production of it, but it pivoted very well, like the rest of us did. There's an episode which appears as if though it was filmed on Zoom.
Amazing,
which is really really funny. And yeah, the fourth season has just started on Apple TV, so I'm getting this one caught up.
Yeah.
Which is really, really fun to relive all the early episodes again. Yes, it's very funny and
so funny.
I must say, and for anyone out there who is already a fan of the show and has not started watching the new season yet, just know that it's a bit of a return to form. I know, I think some people think that maybe somewhere between season 2 and season 3 there was a bit of a dip in quality, or maybe that was just me that felt that. But the end of season 3 really picked up again. And then season 4 it feels like a true return to form.
If it's anything like this first season, it must be really good.
Yeah, well, the second season suffered from the fact that it was one of the first procedural sort of or sitcom kind of shows that wasn't like a reality show. Because how RuPaul's Drag Race was famously if not the first show to go back into production during COVID lockdowns and all that kind of stuff.
With all of the different like mandates and stuff that they had to follow and things like that. Yeah.
So second season of Mythic Quest was one of the first like full-on like sitcom drama, dramedy kind of shows to go through the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And when you watch the second season, especially now, it'll be interesting when we get to it.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell.
Is it kind of like that hollow world kind of sensation where there's not like lots of background acting and like there's not a lot of
lots of scenes outside.
Yeah. But also lots of people, if they're interior, solo shots. Like they're not all together.
I kind of there's an episode in the second season where Poppy gets some kind of Women in Gaming award, and it's this big outdoor awards ceremony, and all the tables are really far apart, and there's only like 4 people on each table, and all this kind of. Where normally I feel like a scene like that would be done inside like a big ballroom or something,
like a gala or something.
People around. And I know there's another scene where David goes and speaks to the HR manager, and she's outside having lunch, and there's like 2 background characters in this big empty outdoor space.
So I think that's going to be like, not to sidetrack, but there's kind of like a renaissance going on at the moment of like early 2000s bad CGI where you're like, wow, what a time and place. This is going to be one of those where we look back on it. It's like, what a time and place. Of media this was where we all had to kind of just adapt to it.
I know. I know. Not that I want to get too much into reliving the COVID years, but
thank you.
There is a bit of that. There is a vibe to TV shows and movies. I'm only seeing it now.
Yeah.
Like I think I watched
I
watched a movie on a plane last year. I can't remember what it was. It's some horror movie, which was so clearly filmed because there is like 3 characters in the whole thing. There's even a scene where like one of the main characters is in a big shopping center and there's like no one else there. Except for one staff member scanning
very
stuff.
Good, yeah.
Anyway. So Mythic Quest.
It's really good. It's very tongue-in-cheek. It's got really great references. So if you're a gamer or you love gaming culture, it's like perfect.
Yeah.
But even if you're not like the biggest gamer or like don't know that much, it's still super accessible. So I think it's like a perfect watch. Like I'm really excited to watch more.
Yeah. It's got a lot of heart to it, which I think is one of the keys to a good comedy where even the characters can do some awful things sometimes. Like you still just kind of love them. Like Schitt's Creek style.
Yeah. Schitt's Creek style very much, yeah. Well, I do know, and this is just from knowing about Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the character of Ian, I forgot his name.
He's like
Rob
McElhaney.
If you ever are looking to experiment with men, please let me know. But he is notoriously like a big gamer. So obviously this is probably like a passion project for him. And I assume some of the other cast, I can't speak for them because I don't know. But I can imagine like a lot of the cast members probably do like love gaming or like they are avid gamers of some description. So you can kind of tell because they've got their references down like really well. So
Absolutely. So yeah. Plus, there's lots of wonderful, like, we've got queer characters, everything like that in it. It's super, super fun. And I mean, sometimes the lesbians are the butt of the joke, but it was very hilarious to see in one of the most recent episodes where one of them got handed a book that said, "Dogs suitable for lesbians."
Oh, my God.
That's all I'll say.
I do think that it's okay to poke fun at queer people sometimes though. If you are queer though, like if you have like queer writers and you have queer people, I think it's okay to make queer people the butt of the joke as long as it's in good taste. You know what I mean? That's in good taste.
So the book was put together by the assistant.
Oh yeah,
the psycho one,
psycho sister. Shout out to you, random woman.
So it kind of makes sense in context of the character
because she's like a massive bully.
She's a massive bully, but she's like, oh, this is like they're looking to buy a dog. I think this will be really helpful. So she puts together a scrapbook that says "Dogs for Lesbians."
So funny, but that is funny though. I don't know. Maybe as a gay person, I'm not the arbiter of what you can and cannot do to make fun of people, but I do think that's kind of funny.
Hey, all right. Mythic Quest, if you have not got on it, get on it. It's so much fun. It does require an Apple TV subscription. If you...
Or a friend that has Apple TV.
That's right. And if you're already on it, the 4th season, I had no idea it was coming out. I, like a lot of people I know who watched it, thought it ended at the 3rd season because it had a bit of an ending. But no, it's back every Wednesday on Apple TV here in Australia. Good times.
Woo!
So... Here we are, by the way, in 2025.
We sure are here in 2025.
It is. So we are recording this on the 8th of February, 2025. So
time flies.
I got into a bit of a weird thing the other day. I was like, should we do an episode about games that are being released in 2025? And we still might do that. Who knows? But I came across, first I was just looking at games that were releasing in February. And I was like, okay. February is actually, it's quite a stacked release schedule.
Yeah,
right?
wow.
So I've kind of got the list up in front of us at the moment. So there's games like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I don't remember the first one, but it seems to be very, very popular. The new Civilization game is coming out. Remaster of Tomb Raider.
I see Alien Rogue Incursion as well.
I know, but it's on the MetaQuest. Yuck.
I was going to say any Alien game that comes out, I'm usually a big fan of, but I'm not getting a MetaQuest.
Yeah, and anything to do with Meta, I just want to shit all over. So
Fuck you.
Yeah, take that. I bet your feelings are really hurt now.
Yeah, I know you're watching.
Zuckerberg. Anyway, so, sorry.
Move on.
But then I came and look, follow me here, right? Because there's method to this madness.
All right, I'll go down this road. Go on.
Let's. Although we've come, to the end.
You've had 1.5 seltzers.
I know, right? Live on air.
A shout out to drinking at 11 o'clock, by the way.
Shout out to it. It's nearly 12 now.
Yeah,
it's fun. So anyway, then I came across a random thing, which was, guess what? Sonic the Hedgehog 3 turns 31 this month. Now, I'm talking about the original Mega Drive game.
Wow.
And you can see the short on the YouTube page and the TikTok, the Bargain Bin Gamer YouTube page and TikTok that I did on that as a bit of a review. But then I went down an even further rabbit hole.
Oh my God, got to get a ferret to dig you out.
I know, just look out. I am digging my way to the other side of the planet, right through the core. Then I was like, actually, historically, because I've always wondered, right, because especially when physical media was the norm for games, all the big games came out by the end of November, and then it was no man's land till about March. But
of course,
it seems like
you wanted that Christmas.
Yeah. But it seems like February is kind of the time when it really sort of starts to pick up again. Because then I found on GameSpot actually.
Wow.
I found a day by day, big releases that happened in February.
Wow, yeah.
And, it's there for every single day of the year, actually. And, there's a couple of interesting games that are having significant celebrations this month.
Wow.
For example, I think just a few days ago, the original Sims turned 25.
25.
Released in February of
That'd be
2000.
Oh,
because it's
2025. Listen, we do podcasting as a side hustle. We're not good at math. Let's be real.
So that was really, really cool to see that. And then I was like, that would be cool to play. And so EA, in their infinite wisdom, have released a package, like a completely unoptimized version. And I've seen lots of videos online and people saying, oh my God, you've got to play around so much to get it to run and all this kind of stuff.
That's such an EA thing to do, by the way.
And for like $30. And I'm like, nah, you're not selling me a game that old for that price if you've done absolutely nothing to spruce it up.
Yeah.
But then what I found was really, really interesting was a couple of games from my childhood were released in February. In fact, on the very day we are recording this,
wow,
I can tell you. So, I mean, these are probably North American release dates, but that's fine. So
back before worldwide releases were a thing. Yeah.
On this day, so February 8, 1999, the original Mario Party was released. The original. And there's
been 502 installments in that franchise.
It really has been. Like,
so
how many Mario Party games has there been?
There's been at least 10, isn't there?
Number of installments, 26. 13 mainline, 6 handheld, and 7 arcade titles.
That is so funny.
That is really, really...
You better fucking get that money, Nintendo.
So I have to ask you, have you ever played the original Mario Party?
Literally never. My first Mario Party...
Because you love the new ones, right?
I love the new one, Jamboree. There was one that I played that was on the Wii U, but I think it was at like a friend's house. I think it was at Heath's house.
And he had a Wii U.
Yeah, I was really drunk at the time.
Yeah.
Something different for me. But I think it was like Mario Party 8. I think that was on the Wii U. I think I played that one and it had like a Bowser mini game in it as well. I don't know if that's a reoccurring factor of these games. But Yeah, that was the only one I ever played. And then Mario Party Jamboree came out and I'm obsessed with it because it's so much fun.
Well,
because it's like the perfect party game, except that it's only 4-player. Anyway.
Well, I remember the original Mario Party coming out. And because, again, this was back in the day. There was not, the internet was around, but it wasn't the main source of information. You know, I got gaming magazines every month to know what was going to happen. And I didn't know anything about Mario Party. This was back in an age too where game rentals were a big deal.
Yeah. Oh, right? When I was growing up, game rental, Video Easy.
Yeah.
Sweetheart. I loved video game rentals.
Yeah. And so because I had the 64 and I had the 4 controllers, usually when I had friends over on the weekend, we would go to Video Easy and get a game to rent. And I remember, and Mario Party, I was like, what the hell is Mario Party? It's like 4 players. And I'm like, hey, there's 4 of us. That's a party.
A little rapscallion group.
I know. So I remember getting it and we played it all weekend.
Yeah.
So as a little treat today, I'm going to hand you something right now.
Oh my God.
So for those listening to the audio version, I have just handed Mitchell a Nintendo 64 controller. Have you ever used one of those?
I have only ever seen photos of these. I don't think I've ever actually been in the presence of one. No. Obviously, this is an updated version because it connects to the Switch.
This is a version they brought out for the Nintendo Switch Online. So we're not playing a Nintendo 64 today. We are going to be playing a Switch through the Switch Online, but they did release.
It's exactly the same. It just doesn't have the cable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is exactly the same.
What a terrible.
You're actually holding it wrong.
What?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to hold like that?
Other hand.
Like that?
Yeah, that was the main way.
Are you joking?
That's the main way it was held, yeah. This was the big console of my knee growing up, by the way.
This is so uncomfortable to hold.
And you know what? But it kind of made sense after a while.
But the way that your body is designed to hold things is to keep them at equilibrium. So like your hands are like this. Yeah. But then it means the arrow pads are all on a diagonal. Yeah. So then I have to go back like this. I don't want to hold. It was right-hand supremacy again. Oh, it's got a little thing under it.
Yeah, that's the trigger button. It was the first ever trigger button on the back of this was the beginning of like trigger buttons.
PlayStation, you hacks.
Well, no, this controller, like revolution, like it introduced, like, so Ocarina of Time and was one of the big games in terms of 3D controls, right? Like it made 3D control in that 3D space and like absolutely perfect.
Mario Party 64.
Well, oh, you mean Super Mario 64?
Oh, my deepest apologies, everyone. Super
Mario 64 was okay. You can still, when you go back and play it, it's still. Have you ever played it, by the way?
I've watched people speedrun it by glitching the game.
There was a lot. There was a lot of clones of Super Mario 64 that did not do controls very well, and it always came down to the camera.
Yeah. I think the camera would have been a tough get around.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to play not 1, but 2 Nintendo 64 games that were released in February. Starting with the original Mario Party. So the way this is going to work is Mitch and I are going to go and have a round of it, and then we're going to come back and tell everyone what we thought.
Yeah.
And specifically, I really want to get Mitch's thoughts on this, right? Because 100%. These are games from before. I mean, he was alive, but very much before his gaming awakening with Pokemon.
I wasn't even conscious by this point. Technically, I was only 2.
I mean, you were around. But the 64 was my console, right? So I want to see, how he reacts to the games that made me.
Yeah, you're sharing a little piece of yourself with me. Very sweet.
So, for those watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast, we will be back soon with our thoughts on this. For our BQN network patrons, we are very excited because if you head over to patreon.com/BQN, we will include the full video of Mitch and I playing the game together, along with the gameplay
some gameplay reaction.
Yes. Speaking of, I totally forgot. Network patrons.
I can't believe you forgot.
I forgot because
I thought you had a charming segue that you were planning.
Did not write a script. Network patrons, BQN network patrons, we love them.
Yes,
especially this show's new associate producer, Sam Johnson. Sam, thank you so much for your financial and emotional support of the show and the network. Remember, if you would like to help keep this and other BQN programs coming to you every single week, head over to patreon.com/BQN. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month.
Wow.
$1 a month. That helps us with all the tech that we need to run our shows. And like I said, you can head over there now and you can see Mitch experiencing Mario Party 64 for the first time. So for everyone else, we'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
I think we're all just celebrating the awesomeness that is Yoshi.
That is the computer winning.
Yeah, so anyway, now we're back. We're back. We have just finished. Look, Yoshi, if you're watching on YouTube, who you can see on the screen right now, was the alleged superstar of our first ever time playing the original Mario Party together.
Salty.
And yeah. So, all right. That took a while.
That did take a long time. That's an hour of my life I'll never get back.
So thank you to our network patrons who actually sat through all of that over on Patreon. But everyone else, welcome back. We've just finished our first game of the original Mario Party. So we booted it up and we played on the Mario Rainbow Castle or something along those lines.
So Rainbow something.
Oh, dear, you're yawning your ass off there. You're really enjoying it.
It was, well, I worked my ass off just to get shafted by bonus stars, which I don't play with on Mario Party Jamboree.
Yeah.
I think they're bullshit. And this is just validated that.
I was just reminded by how brutal the bonus stars were in this original version.
The guy who was last ended up winning.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes no sense. Makes no sense. But look, did you have fun?
I did. It felt very much like life, where I was toiling and trifling and doing my best. And then, some Nepo baby at the end got to make it ahead of me, which was great.
Yeah.
But no, I had fun. There was lots of shades of like what I really enjoy about Mario Party Jamboree. Some of the mini games were very similar. A lot of the charm that is inbuilt into Jamboree is still being expressed here.
Yep.
But, God, those graphics. My God, I'm sorry to listeners and viewers.
Okay, describe them.
Like sharp, jagged edges, PNGs stretched over polygons that are poorly rendered, quality frame rate in the bin. Yeah, and like it also gives me a lot of the character designs clearly weren't like nailed down perfectly. Like now Nintendo has such a brand, all the characters have a very distinct look. Like the Boos looked very strange. Wario had blue eyeshadow for reasons unbeknownst. And there was no different variations of Toad. They were all just the same Toad.
Mm-hmm.
The Koopa Troopers looked like something from Dante's Inferno. It was awful.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Davey said something really poetic, which was it was okay for the time. And we're looking back on it in retrospect with clearer eyes, clearer fidelity, clearer whatever. So I will cut it some slack, but by God, it was ugly.
Yeah. It's interesting. Okay, me saying okay for the time, I think is actually not accurate because I remember when I first played it, when it first came out, I remember thinking like, oh, they haven't put a lot of effort into the character models and the environments because it's just meant to be more of a fun party game, right? So if you go play Mario 64, or there's a lot of really good-looking games on the Nintendo 64 that still look pretty good, but they do get blurred a little bit when you play them on TVs. We're playing on
a big monitor.
A big monitor here, which has 4K resolution on it, right? So when it's stretched up onto that,
definitely didn't help it. I bet like being on a smaller box TV and like having lower expectations would have made it a lot more passable. But it was definitely a bit glaring.
Yeah,
the vision, but we play Mario Party Jamboree and it looks gorgeous, so I can't whinge.
Yeah, and there's just so many interesting things. I mean, there's less characters to choose from.
Yeah, definitely. It was, how many was that? There was 6.
6, yeah. I think you had Mario, Luigi, Wario, Peach, Yoshi, and Donkey Kong.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they were the character models on it were horrific.
Butthole and Donkey Kong, very nice. Good touch.
There was a lot of
presenting.
There was a lot of anal presenting, and maybe that's just our gay projection onto these characters. But there was a lot of stuff happening where it just looked like in the Grabber game, it kind of looked like Yoshi was giving Donkey Kong a bit of the old 1-2.
He was giving him a 1-2.
He was giving him a 1, 2, 3, 4, and he was loving it. But look, I think one of the important things is about playing this is given that we've played the modern Mario Party and reviewed it on this podcast, is where has the series come from and where is it now? I think,
shades.
As someone who played it, I'm like, wow, okay, there's a lot of the foundations of the series that are still there today.
Yep.
The board game nature of it. I mean, even though, you've got beautiful, fully 3D boards now, this was a flat, pre-rendered 2D board.
That was rough for me.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. There is, like, the skeletons there, they've obviously improved every single time. But, yeah, like, you've got the spaces where some of them have, like, little changes to the environment. You've got the trick ones. You've got the negative ones that deduct coins. Like, they're there. What other things have you noticed that have still stuck around?
Well, obviously mini games.
Yeah, of course.
Bowser spaces. Bowser fucked us up a lot during that game, by the way.
Bowser did fuck us up a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that was really annoying during that game just then that we played was we had mini games that repeated multiple times.
And there were mini games, not only that repeated multiple times, but the one that did repeat the most was basically based on chance. Like, there wasn't really any skill involved. And there were a couple other mini games where, like, they were, I would argue, more luck-based than they were skill-based. And that's something that I can't say about Mario Party Jamboree and their games. I find they're pretty much all skill-based. Like, it's last man standing, like, quality.
Yeah.
And there were a couple, like, small tweaks to it where, like, when you played the mini games, you'd lose coins if you lost and gain the coins that you win. Whereas in Jamboree, you don't lose coins for losing. The winner just wins coins. So, swings and roundabouts. But yeah, they also, like, this is going to make me sound a bit strange out of context, but also everyone's characters have been, like, yassified in, like, the 2025 era. Like, Bowser looks very different, not as rotund, a bit more humanoid, which I think the gays
he's got a lot more polygons making up his...
He's got a lot more biceps making up his new model, which is a bit strange.
I mean, this was the age of low polygons on the screen, right? So everything is just very blocky.
Yeah, Luigi with his noodle legs, very cute.
Yes.
But yeah, no, like... The skeleton's definitely there. There are some things that I'm really glad they've changed, like the losing of coins when you lose the mini games.
Yeah.
Some of the things that I like about Jamboree, which I don't know when they would have changed, but this map that we played, which was the rainbow one, it had a start and end, whereas in Jamboree they just have an infinite loop and the star moves around, which I think is a bit more immersive. It gives like
I think that changes on other maps though.
Wouldn't surprise me, but like that, I still thought that it was an interesting concept. It was giving very Monopoly vibes though. Like go past go, collect those 10 coins at the end. Like
there are some maps in the modern one that do that.
Yeah.
The other thing that really stuck out to me was the 20 turn minimum. And what was killing us the whole time was it did not tell us until the last 5 turns. We did not know how many turns we had to go. I reckon we've been recording here on the computer now for nearly 2 hours. I reckon that was a good 90 minutes worth of playtime.
100%. Another thing as well that I don't know if this is what you were going to say is when the computer plays its own mini game, we just have to sit there and watch.
Yes.
We just get to watch the computer play a
speed
video
it up
game.
or anything like that. Yeah. I mean, but sign of the
time. It definitely is. And thank God that the times have changed.
Yes. And thank God that we had alcohol to get us through it. But I think half the fun of that came from just, you experiencing it for the first time and also playing with the N64 controller. We did the very well-known mini game of the tug of war, which involves the palm on the control stick.
The skin irritating.
If you played Mario Party back in the day, you know exactly what we're talking about, and it's so much of a thing that the Switch version of it, when you load it up, actually gives you a warning about skin irritation from using your palm,
rubbing the skin off.
But there's literally no other way to do it and win.
No. You can't sit there and spin it with your thumb. That's too clunky. You have to spin it with your palm in order to get the speed up. So
having played a whole game with that controller, how do you feel?
I think I'm glad for innovation and things that have changed. I find that using the controller, I'm sure it's iconic and I'm sure it's whatever, so people can yell at me however they want. This whole third of the controller is pretty much not used, except for in navigating cutscenes or navigating the menu. So its purpose is unnecessary. It's an iconic shape, and I totally understand why they would have done it. But I'm glad modern.
I can't even think of a game that I played back in the day that I had to use the D-pad for.
Yeah. And I was saying to Davey when we first started is that you're holding the controller, but your hands naturally want to balance out, which means that these directional arrows are not actually pointing right, left. They're kind of all on an angle, which is a bit strange, but not that you really use them, but still, it's just a few weird little niggles that I had a little issue with.
Well, there's a few things that it pioneered, right? So you've got, first analog stick like that. I mean, joysticks and all that were a thing before then.
But analog.
But analog was, so especially in terms of, navigating a 3D space, that was pretty revolutionary. The C buttons here, they kind of acted as almost like the second stick, which eventually became a thing when the PlayStation released their analog controller. But this little section here, so on the original N64 controller on the back is where the rumble pack went into.
A what?
The rumble pack. Now, this was the first controller to vibrate.
I bet some kids had a bit of an awakening with that.
But it was a peripheral that, so you had to clip it into here. But the problem was that's also where the memory card used to clip it.
So you could either rumble or retain save.
Fortunately, the majority of games on the N64 had saves on the cartridge.
Right.
A few of them had, you needed the controller pack for. I think they eventually released rumble packs that also doubled up as what they called the controller pack, which was the memory card as well. But yeah, interesting little beast, isn't it?
I'm kind of glad that controllers aren't shaped like that anymore, especially because the controller does denote being held like this, just based on like the symmetry of its design.
Yeah.
Like if it was designed to be held like this, you'd assume it would be designed symmetrically. But anyway, is what it is. Loved it.
Loved it. Loved. I don't think there's any need to make it gay.
No.
There
was no gay characters.
Apart from us, again, projecting what we thought was gay humping actions onto the characters.
And Bowser's technically gay now. Well, like a gay icon, per se.
Yeah. So if you were to sum up your first N64, like proper N64 experience.
Yeah, that was my first ever N64 experience.
It's an iconic console.
It was very charming. Like I can understand why it's had the cultural significance that it has had. Like I've seen games that came before it, and I know games that came after it, obviously. But obviously, this was quite a revolutionary piece of technology. Can't get behind the weird quirk of holding the controller in such a strange way, but that's fine. They were trying something. The game was ugly, but very charming.
Very charming.
And you know what? I've played some fucking hideous games because I like the feel and the gameplay of it. So, I would give it 4 out of 5 buttholes.
And there's some buttholes for you.
Another Mythic Quest reference.
Yeah. and it is so interesting, right? Because, I mean, Mario Party is an iconic game franchise, but it's certainly not the best of iconic Nintendo 64 games.
No.
Super Mario, the 2 Zelda games that came out on it, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark. It'd be interesting to see you play GoldenEye because first-person shooters have come a long way since GoldenEye as well.
Imagine.
But we've got so just a reminder to everyone: if you want to see the whole video of us actually playing the game, it is available.
It's quite gag
over on Patreon, patreon.com/BQN. Only costs $1 a month to support the network.
And you get to see us getting mad at computers.
Yeah. So we're gonna switch to another game now that was released in February of the year 1997.
Oh my god, the year I was born.
So
I was conceived around this time.
The following game actually came out in the following month in Australia in March, but on the 10th of February 1997, 28 years ago, Mario Kart 64.
Wow.
So it's
come a long way.
Wow.
I can't believe Mario. Is this the first Mario Kart?
No, the first one was on the Super Nintendo.
Oh wow, I don't even.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like the Pixel one, yeah.
It's like it was the Super Nintendo emulating 3D graphics. Now, you're in for a bit of a treat, right? Because Mario Kart 64 was the 4-player game. Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo started the whole craze. Mario Kart 64 was the game that made it the juggernaut that it is.
Of course.
However, it's
janky as fucking ugly.
Well, yeah.
Am I going to cringe again?
You're going to find out when you play it, right? Because the graphics they're interesting. I mean, I have so many fond memories of friends coming over, the 4 controllers, up until 4:00 in the morning playing this game. So we're going to dive into it now.
Yeah.
For patrons, head over to patreon.com/BQN if you want to see the full video of us playing it.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go and play, and we'll be back soon here on the pod with our impressions. Well, this is where we leave the patrons and come back to the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, you can just see Wario was me. I just placed second in what was a very cruel and unusual round of Mario Kart.
I will say, though, in our original round, I did come first. So, you know.
So let's recap. We just played two Grand Prix in Mario Kart, and I can't actually remember which ones we played. We played the first one, which is the Star Cup, and I'm just clicking through the screen now so I can see what the cups are called. So we played
the Mushroom Cup.
The Mushroom Cup, which was Luigi Raceway, Moo Moo Farm, Koopa Troopa Beach, and Calamari Desert.
Yeah, and then we did Star Cup, which was Wario Stadium, one of your faves, Sherbet Land, which I hated, Royal Raceway, and then Bowser's Castle.
Royal Raceway and Bowser's Castle. So, all right. I feel you had more fun with that than you did with Mario Party.
I did, but I think that's just because of like the nature of the game. It's a little bit more adrenaline rush. It's a little bit more like you can actually interact with each other and kind of like fuck each other up, which is quite fun.
Yeah,
and also it's based on skill instead of luck, which I always prefer.
You kept like going, fucking love Mario Kart. Fucking love Mario Kart.
It's because the first Grand Prix we did, I did a very good job because there was no ability to fall off the track.
We were playing on 50cc, by the
For
way,
reference,
which is the easiest mode you can play on.
Fucking love Mario Kart. No, it was very good. I was saying while we were playing that the punishment to like the punishment for failure or for mistakes felt a lot more severe in this game. Like falling off the map, like you were fucking frozen for like, I felt like 10 seconds. It was so long. And like you bump into a wall in like the Wii Plus versions, anything from there that I've played, you just kind of bounce off. Whereas this, it's like, oh, you like spin out. I was like, oh my God. And it also felt like some of the items weren't as useful. The red shells couldn't go as far as they normally would in like a more modern game. So they were a little bit less useful. And the boosts seemed like they didn't really do too much. But yeah, it was
definitely... you hated the boost.
Well, I was getting the boost a lot in the first Grand Prix, and I was like, this is getting me kind of nowhere. Because it was like jolting the camera, and I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. And my motion sensing abilities or my depth perception was really off by this game, because when you held an item behind you, you zoomed out further. Yeah. And because there were 2D sprites, I was like, where am I in space? Help, I can't aim anywhere. But all things considered, I had a lot more fun playing that because it was more competitive. It was more skill-based rather than luck-based. We got to interact a bit more. We could shell each other and fucking...
It's chaos.
It was utter chaos.
Mario Kart 64 is, in terms of like the 3D Marios, I think chaos reigns supreme.
Supreme indeed, yeah.
Because the controls, I find, because you're the 2D sprites as opposed to like a 3D character model.
Yeah.
It's really floaty and
very
glidey.
Yeah.
And like being able to do the, what do you call it? The drift? The drift, yes. The drift. The drift is really, really hard to do. And I can remember as a kid, I aced it. Like, and now I really can't quite do it anymore. I think it holds up as one of the, in terms of like playability now, it is the weaker of the 3D Marios.
It's still super playable.
Mario Karts, I should say.
Like, if you crack that game out,
super playable,
we would still play it. I mean, it probably helps we've had a couple seltzers and we're kind of laughing at the faults in the game. I think it'd probably be a bit annoying.
Yeah. But if you go and play, say, the one that came after this on the GameCube, Double Dash, it holds up a lot better than this does. But I mean, this was the Mario Kart.
The Mario Kart. Yeah, you were saying like this is like the first 4-player like proper game.
It was first 4-player game that came out on the 64.
Yeah.
That took full advantage of the 64's multiplayer capabilities, which is really what it was built for. It was built as this, and Nintendo's always had that ethos of bring people together for gaming. The Switch does it. The Wii definitely did it.
Yeah, Jesus.
Even the GameCube was, with its little handle, was meant to be picked up and carried around to a friend's house and stuff like that. What were some of the other things? So talk about graphics, right? Because you kept saying, "Oh, my depth
My depth perception. So it was because it was a 3D world and I had 2D sprites, and that's where that floatiness comes from, is because you're moving at a speed, but I'm not actually physically seeing the 3D model move. I'm seeing a 2D model move. And so for those who watched on Patreon, you'd notice that I missed lots of item boxes because I was like, oh yeah, I'm heading on a straight path, but then I wasn't because the actual map had curvature. And even like sometimes I'd fly up and I'd just start spinning for reasons that I did not know. And I'm like, oh, it's because the nose of my cart is actually pointing in a direction I just don't really know, because the sprites themselves are like back, slightly adjacent, side.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were perfectly modeled as to where you were. They would just kind of snap to the closest. So, that was quite janky, but that's just from hindsight. Like if that came out when I was a kid, I'd be like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But the graphics were a bit rough. I mean, it's a race game, so I don't really care that much about the backdrop, to be completely honest. Places like Calamari Desert were pretty aesthetic looking. Sorbet Beach was pretty nice.
Sorbet Beach.
Is that what it's called? Sorbet?
It was Koopa Troopa Beach.
What's the sorbet one?
There was no sorbet. Oh,
Sherbet Land.
Sherbet Land.
Oh, don't mean sorbet. Fake fan alike.
Okay, which was the favorite course that you played, right? So out of Star Cup and Mushroom Cup.
Unfortunately, my favorite was Mushroom Cup.
Yeah, which one did you like the most? Which race?
It's between Moo Moo Farm and Calamari Desert for me.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. But I have like a long-standing love for Moo Moo Farm, and specifically Moo Moo Meadow.
Yeah,
when it was remastered in Wii, so I think that's my favorite.
And I kind of referenced that when we were playing. I feel like you have probably played a lot of the remastered versions of these tracks.
Yes, every single track that we played, I've played the remastered version. They were not new to me.
Yeah,
and there was not really much difference to them, which I guess pros and cons. But they were probably mine. What about you? Which one was your favorite?
Wario Stadium is my all-time favorite Mario Kart track.
Very unforgiving track.
It is incredibly unforgiving. I don't know. There's a great shortcut you can pull off in that right near the beginning, but I remember trying to pull it off as a kid and literally starting the game over and over and over.
Oh, really? Because you just wanted to do it.
However, even if you do it, you're not assured to win because, the game was famous for what they called its rubber band physics, which I was talking about to you whilst we were playing, which is where the blue shell, for example, was invented because the N64's memory could not quite handle if players got too far apart from the track. So if you're playing one player, the blue shell will just smoke you.
It'll just come
just to even things up, because otherwise the console will shit itself, blow up. Unfortunately, and the emulation is still running by that logic.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that came from.
Yeah, that was interesting. And then it kind of I mentioned it just before, but like parried down to like the red shells being basically useless if you're too far behind, because you can't even actually see the players kind of in the horizon. You can see their items spinning around them, but not the player. Yeah. But the red shells will not be able to find them unless they're kind of within your line of sight.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas in more modern games, they'll hunt down the next bitch, basically.
Yeah. And I felt like I'm feeling really like almost headachy after playing that. I don't know. We've got the spotlight on here as well in front of us too.
I'm used to being in the spotlight. Don't stress.
But like I feel like really heavy-eyed and kind of
I think it's because of
tired after playing that.
Do you know what it was? I think it's because we're so used to like shaded games and games that are less
motion sick.
It's motion sick, but also I think the colors were so red, green, blue. Like they were just so bright. We're used to like shades of colors, whereas I don't think they really had that mastered down. But then of course the motion sickness that I have got, I currently am experiencing.
Yeah.
But I guess when you were a kid, you probably didn't care.
Yeah.
You were like, who cares?
But again, it's the same as what I was talking about with the graphics on Mario Party or any N64 game. It looked different on a CRT TV.
Of course.
My friends and I would play it on a CRT, like the size, not much bigger than a laptop monitor, like a 15-inch laptop monitor. And we were just till 4:00 in the morning.
Right up near the screen as well.
Like just one more.
And that probably made the graphic even worse based on being on this 4K TV because the frame rate was probably stop, start.
Yes.
Eyeballs.
It's almost like too clear.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like, cool. We got to see all of the sticky tape and the staples.
Yeah.
But loved it. I give it 4.5 buttholes.
So you fucking buttholes, man. So you definitely had a lot more fun with that than you did with Mario Party.
Mario Party's fun, but I think I've benefited from how it's changed and mutated and become a bit more user-friendly. I think the bones of this game are still exactly the same. Like I picked this controller up and knew exactly how to play it, and the skills that I had from playing previous Mario Kart games came out in this. So I think that denotes it as more of like a classic game in my brain because they haven't had to tweak it as much. They haven't had to change the formula. They just kind of reinvent it, add a new skin of paint on it, chuck maybe a couple extra maps in every now and then have to market. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think this was a bit more up my alley.
It was one of the... It wasn't a launch game, but I'm pretty sure it was first year of the N64's life that it came out as well. Like big launch games for the N64 were like Super Mario 64. I think Pilot Wings and Wave Race came out, followed shortly by Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. And then
Pokemon Stadium?
Pokemon Stadium came out much later.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. There you go.
It's
I still feel like, it's something that you could probably get a bunch of mates to play like 4-player on that.
Oh yeah, that'd still be fun like to this day, like that game. Yeah, because of the jank, because of like the faults in it, it makes it a bit more eclectic.
Oh yeah, the chaos, right? When people are just, especially like on the last one we played, which was the Bowser's Castle.
Oh,
that was just. Oh my god! Like just
a million things
everywhere.
Oh my god, those thump things! Oh my god, they were a pain in my tit.
And it's kind of funny too. What I love about Mario Kart is just the laugh out loudness that you have. Like even when you get totally smoked,
you're like
it's hilarious because you hear like all the little characters going yahoo and all that, Mamma Mia. And all
when
that
you
kind
threw
of
that
stuff.
blue shell and it hit a bunch of people and he went ha ha.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Even like the players kind of throwing a hissy fit because when I kept falling off in sherbet, whatever it was, I was like, fuck! Like I was so mad, and like it was funny for Davey to watch because he was just like, ha ha ha, you suck.
So, how would you rate your first N64 experience?
Very charming. I really enjoyed it. I can see why people like fell in love with it, especially if there was nothing really like this prior to. I can imagine that this would have just fucking taken the childhood player base by storm.
Yeah.
I thought it was really charming. I can see it's good to see as well because it's almost like I'm looking at like my grandparents because I've seen these games.
Jesus, okay, they're not that old.
The whole existence of my life old.
Okay, which is not that long, but
well, it's old for me because it's my whole life.
Yeah,
but for me, I'm looking at these and I'm seeing like the skin and the bones of games that I've fallen in love with in my later years. So it's almost like I'm like, oh, thank you. I'm looking at the things that my games have stood on the shoulders of, which is very charming. So,
well, like what other iconic N64 game do you think you really want to try next? So I reckon it's got to be like either like Mario or Zelda or something like that. Which one would you go with?
I would like to play Zelda. Zelda's really high up there because I really want to play Zelda.
Yep.
I think I want to play Super Mario 64 as well because I've heard many things about it.
Yep.
And maybe some Pokemon Stadium, but that might just be me in my free time.
Pokemon Stadium, sorry. Pokemon Snap was fun to play.
I would like to play Pokemon Snap because I've played the new one. I haven't. I love it.
I reckon we've got to give you a
GoldenEye as well.
which is on here on the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
And
wouldn't mind playing Banjo-Kazooie because I've never played their game. I know him as a Smash character.
Banjo-Kazooie is really good. Banjo-Kazooie is a lot like Mario 64, 3D platformer, made by Rare when they were at their peak. Blast Corps was a good fun game. Harvest Moon 64 was like an original farming simulator.
Cute.
But yeah, there's a lot of gems on here, and some of them, like Zelda, for example.
Yeah.
Like, it still plays really well today.
I really want to play that.
And I just, even whilst we're recording, I just need to load it up just so that we can get a little bit of this in our lives. Hang on a sec. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
And ready? Here it comes. And... Are
you going to let me listen?
Oh, sorry.
I've heard this before, but yes, very nice.
It's nice, isn't it?
It's very nice.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Well, it was fun.
That was fun.
It was fun to share the N64 with you. I don't think, Mario Kart definitely was great. I don't think you got to see it at its best with Mario Party, unfortunately. It's a title that has definitely come a long way.
Yeah.
And sometimes, the original is not the best.
No. Sometimes change is good.
Yeah, sometimes change is needed. But anyway, that's it from us for now. Remember to head over to Patreon and become a patron member if you would like to see the full version of this podcast with our gameplay exploits.
And our yelling and screaming.
Which, trust me, it's a lot of fun. We might do some shorts on YouTube later on down the track. But hey, until we see you again next time, I've been Dave.
And I've been Mitch.
And we've been the Bargain Bin Gamers. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you give it a big thumbs up on YouTube or follow the podcast wherever you get your podcast from and leave us a 5-star review. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky and follow along on our live Twitch streams. You can also continue the conversation in our BQN podcast Discord by clicking the link in the episode description. Don't forget that the Bargain Bin Gamer is part of a larger network of podcasts called the BQN. You can support this and other BQN programs by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/BQN. We'd love to hear your feedback on the episode. Leave us a comment on YouTube or send us an email to bargainbingamer, Gaymer, @gmail.com. Until next time, au revoir.
Double T Media.